The Italian Radio Hour is sponsored by Istituto Mondo Italiano.
Buonasera a tutti, good evening and welcome to the Italian Radio Hour. Io sono Stefano.
Sono Viviana.
Oh, come sta Viviana? Viviana is very busy right now as we're working to bring our guests online, but don't worry, but obviously we got a very exciting show for you today, and we're working on our folks coming in, and we're going to have some folks dialing in from Rome, so this will be very interesting. But obviously we want to welcome you back for another episode, and as always we want to welcome our regular listeners, and as the show continues to grow and with our online and being able to stream this and put the previous shows out there, we also want to welcome new listeners. We've been, hearing from a lot of folks that they are, enjoying the show and starting to pick it up and share it with their friends. So we want to thank you for sharing the show. We also want to welcome our new listeners. And obviously we want to welcome anyone listening online at khbradio.com. And as always, be sure to like us on Instagram and Facebook at The Italian Radio Hour.
E di nuovo benvenuti ai nostri ascoltatori da tutto il mondo, grazie per essere con noi anche oggi mentre continuiamo il nostro viaggio per l'Italia e la cultura italiana.
All right, and looks like we are getting ready to go, but first, before we jump into our guests, let's talk about really quickly about the last episode. So we spoke with Justine and Joe, and if you remember, they created a documentary called The Mona Lisa's Missing, and a very interesting documentary, and some very fun facts, and I do encourage you to go out there and watch that if you haven't. We've also had a couple of winners last week, and they're going to get a couple of DVDs of the show, so congratulations to our winners. And a kind of a friendly reminder, a few weeks ago, we had a group called Alabuara. They're also the group that plays the music for the show. So if you enjoy the kind of intro music and you haven't had a chance to go listen to them, we're encouraging you to go out to www.istitutomondoitaliano.org and buy a couple of tickets. They're going to be here in March 19th of them.
At 7 o'clock.
Perfecto. Limited seating, so again, please don't wait. Get your tickets today. But as always, again, as I love to say, the old radio phrase, the phrase that pays. Last week we asked about non è farina del tuo sacco. All right, Viviana, cosa significa?
Non è farina del tuo sacco. So we put a cute little picture on the website with this sack of flowers, and so we got all kinds of answers that had to do with cakes and baking and so forth. But actually, the true meaning of this is if it is not flour from your sack, it means it's not your idea. You copied it from someone else. Whether it's plagiarism, usually students and go and copy, and then the teacher say, Giuseppe, whatever, that was not farina del tuo sacco. So I want to congratulate Mary Geyer for sending us the correct answer.
Perfecto. We used to have an old phrase called cooperate to graduate. But that means something completely different. And again, the folks, if you're sending in emails, when we throw that phrase out there and you send in your emails, we are personally reading them and we enjoy it. So please keep the emails coming. We really do appreciate the support.
Okay, so before we introduce our guests for the evening, a little bit of pubblicità. Parli italiano? Do you want to learn, improve, or master your Italian? Istituto Mondo Italiano can help. Located in the heart of Regent Square, Mondo Italiano offers small group classes and one-on-one private tutoring to help you learn Italian in no time. Visit us online at www.istitutomondoitaliano.org, and our spring semester starts on March 26. Hurry and register. So here we are. I'm so excited to have two very special guests on the line with us. They just climbed down Mount Vesuvius because they were shooting their latest video. They're not movie stars, but they are the stars of Rimessa Roscioli in Rome. Good evening, Lindsay and Alessandro. Come state?
Hello, hi, we're here.
Ci siete. Benvenuti. Okay. So It's 11 o'clock their time, so thank you very, very much for agreeing to have this conversation about all about wines and a lot of other topics that will come around. So a little bit of a background. So Lindsay Gabbard, you will tell us a little bit about yourself, and Alessandro Pepe are indeed the partners that manage Rimessa Roscioli. Actually, the concept, I believe, comes from Alessandro, a very unique place in the heart of Rome, where you can experience not only wonderful wines, but more as we have this conversation about some other very genuine products that they source also from other local farmers and so forth. Wonderful wine tasting dinners, and we'll talk also about the wine club. But before we get to the fun stuff, let's get a little bit about the background on both of you. Lindsay, if you would like to share a little bit how from Michigan you ended up in Rome.
Well, I'll do a short version of the story, basically. I had moved from Michigan over to California. I was living in Santa Barbara for about 5 years and started studying formally with the Court of Master Sommeliers. But started really realizing that I was losing all my passion for wine when I started really studying these technical books. And I decided that I needed to put the books aside and go over to Spain, France, and Italy for about 10 weeks by myself and just go through the vineyard regions. And I got down to Rome. I met a master sommelier who introduced me to Roscioli. So I did lunch at Roscioli one day. I did the wine tasting dinner at Rimessa Roscioli the following day, and long story short, I decided to leave it all behind and move back over to Italy, and I've been here about 6.5 years now, and I'm now a partner in Rimessa Roscioli alongside with Alessandro, who was kind of the main founder of it, and also a partner in the Roscioli Wine Club, which we started about 4.5 years ago.
Okay, wonderful. So, Alessandro, a little bit about yourself. You are also a globetrotter. Although you were born in Italy, you lived abroad, had establishments and so forth. Can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Well, I lived most of my life in Italy, and I consider myself deeply Italian with all the good and the bad side of it. But yeah, I lived in the U.S. when I was 9 years old. In actually New Jersey. Usually Americans laugh when I say that, or they answer, "I'm sorry." But I had a beautiful time. I was in Princeton. My mother was teaching at the university there, anthropology. And then I had an experience in Dublin where I opened, I think, possibly the first Italian wine bar there in 2001, the first official wine bar. But most of the time, I was born in Milan, but I lived in Rome for more than 26 years, I would say, yes. More or less. And I travel a lot. I don't really know where do I belong, if Milan or maybe my family, part of my family is from Puglia. So yeah, I consider myself North and South Italian. I have the passion of the South Italians and somehow the rationality of the Northern ones. I would say more the irrational side is winning in the second part of my life, but that's almost it.
All right. That's, by the way, that was funny that you said the passion of the South. That explains a lot of things in my family. So that's fantastic. I appreciate that. Lindsay, I want to kind of go back to you, though. I watched an interview you did a while back. Before you went to Italy, though, you kind of did, I don't want to say hopped around Europe, but you were in Spain and France. And was this part of your studying and your kind of researching wine?
Basically, there was just something that pushed me away from the books. And, I mean, I had always fallen in love. I was engaged once back in a good old time, and I was going to get married out in Napa Valley. I loved vineyards. To me, that's where my passion was being on a vineyard and drinking wine with friends, having a picnic, whatever it was. I mean, in Santa Barbara, every single weekend we rode motorcycles and went out to basically Los Olivos, where they shot Sideways, and that's where we were every single weekend. So, I mean, studying to some degree, whatever you want to call it, is drinking. It's not just memorizing things from books. So that's to me the only way. Also, because the wines we get in the U.S. are never really fully representational of the wines from a specific country, and I knew that from having tasted some good French wines when I was studying abroad in London. And so I figured the only way to really get in touch with wines was to actually go to where they were being made and actually drink them in the actual country that they were being made in, so that I could taste something that was a little bit more authentic instead of these, bigger industry kind of style wines that get imported to the U.S. often.
Alessandro, if I may ask you, you're not one of the Rosciolis, so to speak, but it is as if you are one of the members of the family. For those that are not from Rome, Roscioli is indeed a household name because of the Forno. Can you tell us a little bit about the family first, and then when you came up with the concept for the Rimessa Roscioli, and for our audience, what does the word Rimessa mean? So what was a little bit about this family that, if you are from Rome, as I am as well, it's a recognizable name, but not for our audience. And again, how you came up with the concept of the Rimessa.
Well, yeah, I do consider myself a bit an adopted child of the family. I don't know if the Roscioli family consider me an adopted child, but no, I mean, with Alessandro Roscioli, I mean, he's the guy that, trusted in me a lot, and I trusted in them too. I mean, it was kind of a mutual. I possibly was tried to be I was the only proper English speaker, which is not true actually. Luigi speaks perfect English too, but I was the first one that was starting to treat the tourists in the same way we were treating Italian. There is a strange attitude in Rome where foreigners are like, the barbarians, So everyone that is not local, and they don't know anything about food, they don't know anything about wine, and things have changed, especially the American tourists that were coming to us. Sometimes they came and they knew about wine more than we do sometimes, and even sometimes about food. American sommeliers being possibly at the moment some of the best sommeliers in the world are from U.S. And so I was the one that got in touch with them and, making tasting. And I used to do tasting when I was in Dublin, when I opened my couple of wine bars there. And so then I opened this private tasting room. At the beginning, it was like a place where we could play with wine, me and my colleagues, a place where we could professionally get drunk, taste wines, and then it became famous, especially because my first customer and client was Anthony Bourdain, and I think he loved it a lot, the concept, and actually he was the first one that told me, you should go on with this idea of the tasting dinner. The idea was about transforming the boring job of sommelier that spend hours explaining the wine to a bored audience, but to create what was the ancient Roman concept of symposium, that wine is a weaver, is not a subject that has to stay in the middle of the stage and everyone has to prey upon it, but it's something that connects people. And in order to connect people, you have to, interact with people, explain the wine in a pleasant and joyful way, and interesting and culturally speaking also. Make them travel with their palate, and also do the pairing with wine and food in a fun and interesting way. And that's how, our tasting dinner became famous, and it became so famous that now actually Rimessa Roscioli almost serve more customer than Salumeria, which is not almost, but we have this almost 1,500 members wine club, people from all over the world, and it's kind of a hub for people that are interested in and not even people that are not interested in wine. They get interested after all our wine tasting, which is our main goal. To let people think that wine is not just something for a snobbish, boring sommelier, or you don't need to be an expert. I used to say everyone can be a sommelier, copying the Ratatouille sentence. Everyone can be a chef, because it's all about trusting your palate and let it travel a bit. Try not to have too much prejudice of what you like and dislike, and try to be ready to taste different things.
So, Lindsay, if I show up there, what do I expect? If I'm just a regular tourist, a visitor, a guest, and I come...
Make a reservation early first. Anyway.
Junio, sarò in Junio.
Except for that.
But what does somebody expect when they're coming into this environment?
Well, I think it's almost kind of nice just to come in with no expectations because we're unlike anybody else. So you can't expect us to be like the tasting room you walked into when you went to Napa Valley. We're not going to be the, I've been in Michigan. We have plenty of wineries that we can go visit. You're not going to expect to have that experience at all. So to me, it's nice when guests kind of come in, assuming that maybe it's going to be like that and finding out that it's actually not like that at all, that we actually make wine a lot of fun. I mean, it's a 2.5-hour experience sitting around a table with guests basically from all over the world. Everyone's sharing different travel stories, getting to know each other. Different cultures are sharing different, whatever, anything that they're interested in. And it just becomes a really nice sociable night where you almost forget that you signed up for a quote-unquote a wine tasting. So it's just a nice dinner experience shared amongst guests.
A lot of other things that... Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I want to add that you should expect the unexpected because Rimessa Roscioli is a restaurant, is a tasting place. We organize concerts, we organize events, we organize...
Sometimes winemakers will come.
Twice a week there is a winemaker that is passing through tables, letting tasting. We have this social table that has been a bit frustrated by COVID, but now we're coming back a bit, where at the same table you have like maybe a billionaire that is drinking $1,000 bottle and a broken student that is drinking a cheap Lambrusco, and at the end of the night they are the best friends and they're sharing the bottles. And there is a winemaker in between, and then we do events outside. We came to New York. We served more than 600 people, organized more than three concerts with 11 musicians, and we do art expositions sometimes also. So the idea is to use wine as a connector. I mean, we've been partnered with Niche in New York, and Ariel is kind of our alter ego. There's a beautiful place in New York has a kind of a similar concept. And if you think about it, most of the time people, they go to restaurants because they're driven by their belly, but they're driven also by emotion. The idea is to socialize. But most of the time this doesn't really happen. You laugh, you have sometimes, but at the end, the goal of a restaurant is to connect people. So nothing like us, I think, if we do this, we accomplish this thing. I mean, I create the Rimessa Roscioli based on what I need. What I like like my ideal place, because I'm interested in culture, I'm interested in wine, I'm interested in knowing people.
And when he says expect the unexpected, he's definitely not kidding, because I came there on August 29th, 2015, with the expectation that I was just coming for a wine tasting, and Rimessa Roscioli completely changed my entire life. I now, like I said, I hope none of your listeners think that they're going to come to the tasting and become a partner in the business, but my job is taken. But it really changed my life.
That you did kind of mention something kind of comically, Viviana said, make a reservation. So if I'm going to show up or going to come here, do you guys kind of customize this for the person, or is it like they're going to come and they're literally going to make a reservation, say, I'm interested in this, and you're going to make recommendations?
We have so many different options that people can do with us. We have a few fixed kind of format menus, which you can sign up for online, of course. One is 8 wines with 8 different plates of cheeses, meats, different gastronomy, a plate of cacio e pepe and tiramisu, which is probably our most popular dinner. Beyond that, for more collectors and connoisseurs, we have 3 different levels of a menu called Taste the Legends, which we offer at 170 euros per person, 250 euros per person, or 500 euros per person. And those will have up to 15, 16 wines tasted with equally 15, 16 plates. It's a really, really, really nice menu for those that are a little bit more evolved in their wine journey.
But do you remember, 3 years ago, I remember we were doing this tasting dinner. Something changed at a certain point, because I used to do it. At a certain point, I was repeating always the same thing. And then I understood that I was missing something, because I was not listening to the audience. And when we started to do that game, and we started our tasting after the first or second glass, we started to ask people to run the tasting for us. It was about describing a wine. And this changed completely the spirit of it. And I remember a time that every night was a different experience. So when you talk about costume design, it depends on my mood, on her mood, on the mood of the audience. Sometimes we, think about, I remember once we had like 5 continents sitting at the table. A Chinese, an African, and a Russian, an American, and an Irish, all there. Everyone with his own experience. And I remember also when there was I don't want to talk about politics, but there was like Hillary and Trump discussion.
Oh my gosh.
And every night there was this strange thing where there were people that, could potentially hate each other, but at the same time became friends at the end of the night. No.
Alessandro just would open up a bottle because he was so
does
curious.
that.
His mother had worked for Hillary Clinton, so he would open up a bottle of champagne to try to get them to divulge what was going on in the U.S.
But the idea that, we never had a fight. I don't remember people arguing a lot. And the fact that, every time was a different experience. I don't want to sound too much rhetorical in these hard moments and everything, but, we try to do our best to connect people from different countries and, keep down conflict. And I think wine, that's what wine is good about, because any other alcohol doesn't do that, Any other alcohol might get the aggressive side of you sometimes. The fact that you drink slowly with the wine and you don't drink to get drunk, even though sometimes you do, but that's not the concept. I don't remember ever having really bad experience of customer getting badly drunk in my place. Because we drink slowly, we take the food. It's more about the taste than the effect of the drug, and this creates something special. Hello?
Yes.
Well, we're enjoying the conversation. By the way,
we just were wondering where that was going. But anyway.
By the way, you're I had an African, a Chinese, an American. It sounded like an intro to a joke.
Enter into Rimessa, and what happens?
We're the headquarters of the U.S.
So April 1st, I think things are going to change as far as the state of emergency. But I do want to go back to the COVID times, because there was a period that touched all the businesses, especially also the ones that were in the food industry, and everyone was starting to talk about cutting costs. But it looked like you actually went back to the drawing board and come up with you increased staff. And I don't know if the videos and cultivating that project is a consequence of as I say, a good consequence of the COVID. But the videos that you have been shooting, including the one just now, Mount Vesuvius, or the Barolo Girls, for instance. I'm actually very excited every time there is a new one, because finally wine has a soul. You showcase the producers, their connection to Mother Earth, and also some sustainable farmers as well. So some of the videos are not just about wine, it could be about cheese and everything. So I was wondering if you could share with us what is the common theme for the selection of the wineries or the guests you're going to feature on your videos.
I love you, not just because you're the only one that is watching our videos.
No, I'm not. There are a lot.
Don't worry, there's 2. She makes me watch them.
You're
That's
the
fine.
only one that understood what's behind it. And I spent the last 12 years shooting videos at the beginning. I used to be a documentarist when I was 25 and so on. So I came back to my old job, and at the beginning it was just like a really rough iPhone 4, with no audio, and slowly, finally Repubblica, which is, the Italian New York Times, more or less, they saw us, and we had a beautiful article from Intravino, and technically we are now possibly the second biggest video library on wine in the world. I have to say second because recently Jason Wise, the director of SOM, contacted us, and we spent an incredible week together. It was like finding our brother on the other side of the ocean, and we're probably going to start a new cooperation together with SOM TV. The idea is to connect in these 2 communities that are actually the same community, and I think we can, give a bit of a wildness to the SOM TV content. And they can give us some technical suggestions, because, Americans are much more technically professional than us in doing things. It was beautiful because we've been shooting on the top of the Volcano Vesuvio, like it was on Friday, we had the permission, actually the second people ever that shot on the other side of the gate of the volcano. And they were there with 7 cameras, with all
$40,000 cameras.
And we were there with our 3 little iPhones. And I like the idea that we could recreate it possibly in a cheaper and more simple way without being presumption in any way. But the same situation that possibly Rossellini, the effect that Roma Città Aperta or De Sica had with neorealism, comparing to the big major in Hollywood, they were going there shooting these videos with this movie with no money. And so that's it. Yeah, that's the concept is that we completely missed the point about what wine is about. Wine is not an object. It's not even a subject. Wine is a net, is a weaver of a soil and a culture. And what we tried to say with Barolo Girls, maybe Lindsay should explain it, otherwise sounds like a mansplaining. And what did we want to? I don't know.
No, I mean, something? And really quickly too, because you were trying to link it with COVID and what we absolutely. Right. If we didn't have COVID, we would have never been able to accomplish what we've accomplished. I mean, as sad as it was that the restaurant was closed for more than half the year in 2020, or even probably more than 3/4 of the year, more or less. It did allow our one sommelier, Paola, she got in her smart car and literally did 300 winery visits in 9 months because she's crazy, but also we weren't working. We didn't need the staff to be, I focused on the digital parts and SEO. Everyone kind of just did their part, but that really, really helped us, and that allowed us to go to Barolo for those that week to film. And Barolo Girls was all about basically the idea what do we speak about when we speak about wine? Because when I realized when I was studying for the sommelier exams, my mom would get so frustrated listening to me. Lindsay, can you just drink a bottle of wine? My gosh, and stop talking about it. And you realize that you start to annoy all your friends when you have all this technical information. And so the idea is, how to just get back to a human level of speaking with winemakers and talking about what matters to, whether it's my mom, whether it's Michaela who's in the video, her mom, who again, they don't know anything about wine. But how can we link a story of a human and of a winemaker, of an artisan winemaker, because that's usually who we're almost always working with. It's a very small family. How can we tell that story in a way that's going to be moving for our clients or for my mother or for somebody who's not necessarily studying for wine?
Indeed. So wine is a living product, and I think the videos really capture that. If you can just hold your thoughts, we have more questions for you, but we have a little pubblicità again. Applying for dual citizenship? Need documents translated? Istituto Mondo Italiano provides certified translation and interpretation services in 20 different languages. Be sure to visit us at www.istitutomondoitaliano.org.
Don't delay in getting that plumbing repair done. Call Paolucci Plumbing today for all of your plumbing needs. From trenchless sewer repair and water line repairs and replacement, hot water tanks, sewer camera inspections to Pittsburgh potty repairs. No job is too small for Paolucci Plumbing. Owners Amy and Nick Paolucci have been in business for over 20 years. So give them a call for your next plumbing repair or replacement. That's Paolucci Plumbing, 412-782-5050. That's 412-782-5050. Welcome back to our listeners. We have Lindsay Gabbard and Alessandro Pepe from Rimessa Roscioli in Rome. Another question for you, Lindsay, still related to the videos, the stories of the Barolo Girls. Tell me a little bit, women in wine, where are they? It could be whether it's in the production of the wine, it's a sommelier. Tell me a little, if you can comment on women in wine, in the wine industry.
Sadly, women are probably still quite underrepresented in the wine world, but I have to say that we're fortunate at Rimessa Roscioli that almost all of our sommeliers are actually women. Myself, we had Paola, Michaela, Marluz helps us out, Maddalena, who's going to be, Virginia, Caterina, Ilaria is going to become a bar woman that we'll have working with us. So we do have some men also. There's Alessandro, there's Gaetano, Mattia, but we are definitely dominant with women. And I don't know if it's, I mean, I hate to say that we're better, but I kind of personally think that we sometimes are better. In fact, I beat Alessandro in a blind tasting, and he is like a master sommelier. And I felt like I was the American coming over with no knowledge of Italian wines, but certainly under him. And in a blind taste, I got 9 out of 10, and you got 8 out of 10, right?
7.
I think, or so. I threw him some curveballs, but still.
Okay, so go ahead. Sorry. Mm-hmm.
No, I was just going to say that we do try. It's not even that we seek out women to partner with for the wine club, but a lot of times we end up in front of women, and to be honest, sometimes the wines are, I don't know, maybe just a little bit, I don't know how you would say it, more...
But I mean, if I can, it's urgent. I'm going to do a bit of a mansplaining, but the concept of Barolo girls, they came from them and from me. We were traveling, shooting this documentary about Barolo. The beginning was about expats finding the roots, but the guy that was supposed to drive us, be the leader of this documentary with Lindsay, 5 minutes before we were arriving to Barolo, told us that he was not supposed to come because he had a family problem. And so I actually was driving, and I was driving with 4 women sommelier. And so we, all thought at the same time, why don't we do Barolo? I don't know if you know the story of Barolo boys. Barolo boys are these dudes, fancy dudes that decided to, make young generation of producers that in the 90s created this movement of modern style Barolo. Mm-hmm. Modern style Barolo means starting to use a lot of technical stuff, changing the flavor of the traditional Barolo, creating more American style wine in the Barolo area. This created incredible success, but then it created also a conflict between tradition and modernity. And now, Barolo, there is all these winemakers that are somehow not speaking one with the other because of this. And so what I realized is that, I'm a strong ego person. I am, a male. And I realized that without women during COVID, we wouldn't make it. Mm-hmm. Every male of our business was totally stoned by COVID, and they were not able to do anything. They were lazy, staying on the couch. And if it was not for Lindsay, it was not for Michela, it was not for Paola, we wouldn't probably be here. I was somehow trying to inspire them with some prophetic speeches, but at the same time, I was not the hardest worker of those days because I was feeling COVID as something.
Even the end of the night after all of our long nights of COVID really mentally depleted everybody, but at the end of the night, you saw always they're like 24 years old, they're little peanuts, Nicole and
they were moving the tables, all the hard job.
Yeah, they're the ones that lift the tables at the end of the night, and the guys sit on the side.
I don't know, but I don't think I have really strange ideas about genders. My mother is a feminist, so I was grown up with reading Virginia Woolf and stuff. But
didn't work.
No, it worked. But then I realized that maybe the point is I don't know what women are, how women are determined by men, and the opposite. But for sure, if you consider it about wine, and if you start to study Dionysus, there was a reason why Dionysus didn't let men into the parties. Because Dionysus was the connection with Mother Earth, and it was connection with the continuity. It's like in Avatar. That's the same concept as about if you are a male and you only think about yourself, you cannot be in touch with culture, with nature. And nature is about a circle of life. And so if you want to, get back to the spirit of the circle of life, only women could do that. And so somehow what happened last year, 2 years ago, was somehow that all the women were leading actually the project. And when we did this Barolo Girls, to me, what actually ended, what Michela says, I had my revelation wine listening to a lady that is 25 years old that knows nothing compared to me about wine, but now actually she knows more than me. After 3 years, she was able to catch me. And she says, I understood that the wine is not about the label, it's about relationship and emotion, which is a simple statement, but not a lot. I don't think that 99% of the sommeliers that they come to a table telling boring stories of how this wine is 98 point Parker and this wine is better than that because it's a Cabernet, because that tells you a lot of technical information that most of the time are even lies. They're not even true, At the end, what they are doing, they are putting the bottle, like, I don't want to say, bad jokes, but, you understand what I'm talking about. And women, they don't do that. They were able to create a connection between 2-3 winemakers that hate each other. We're talking about, remember, Rivella, Rivetti, and so the two, one bottle of boy and then other. So that was a total mansplaining, but I had to say from my side. Sorry.
Okay, so we're going to open up the lines for anyone that has questions for Lindsay and Alessandro. The number is 412-825-6262. One more time, 412-825-6262. While we're waiting for the phone to ring, actually would like to now dive into the wine club. I love your picture with the Schioppettino, Lindsay and Stefano. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to spell it. So here is Friuli represented. So tell our audience what to expect from your wine club. It is very successful. Maybe there are tiers, maybe there is frequency of shipments. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so basically the wine club is, it was meant to be a recreation of what our guests experienced at Rimessa Roscioli, so kind of back at home. So we tried to really give as much as possible in terms of bringing them directly to Italy alongside us. The quick technical details, it's 2 shipments per year in the fall and in the spring. We do 12 bottles per shipment, so it's 24 bottles per year. There are different levels. There's a level 1, 2, and then there are some for the collectors and even a Legends level. So ranging from 179 euros per 6 bottles up to 1,000 euros per 6 bottles. 2 payments are made per shipment, so we do ship. You pay for 6 at a time, but we ship 12 at a time. That's the technical stuff. But anyways, beyond that, the thing that I think really differentiates our wine club, I mean, first of all, of course, of the winemakers that we work with in general are going to be artisans. They're always going to be farmed organically, biodynamically, and all that, which we don't really tend to talk too much about. But just so you know kind of what you're getting. They'll be, in general, small producers, most of them making anywhere from, a few hundred cases per year up to, maybe 50,000 bottles or so per year is kind of the, are probably the maximum. Some maybe a little bit larger than that. But in general, they'll be small boutique productions. Every bottle will have a QR code on the back of it. We do a private back label, and we put a QR code where when you scan the QR code, you get a video of the winemaker. There's always subtitles too if they're speaking in Italian. You'll get, pairing ideas, when to drink the wine by, where the which grape it is, where it comes from. A nice little bit of a write-up on the producer, and we keep adding and augmenting these pages every single shipment. We're also doing a lot of winemaker collaborations where we work in, whether it's giving advice to a winemaker on how to maybe slightly, improve a wine or let them realize a dream that maybe they have that they're just unable to do because the market hinders it or prevents it from being something that they want to risk on. Like, for example, the Insuma project, which was the wine that we opened up on the top of Mount Vesuvius. Cantino Olivella was with us. Ciro was with us up there. And years back, we were at a lunch with him at his winery with wine club members. And we suggested to him, we'd just been to this Villa Augustana, was the last villa of Augustus. And we saw this winery from the 2nd, 3rd century with these amphora that you could still see completely, in the ground. And we had the idea, we asked Ciro, would you by chance, buy an amphora and make us a private amphora wine? Because we loved his wines, but we thought there could just be something maybe a little bit more, the word would be, like, we thought we could maybe improve his wine, his Cottoletesco slightly.
The main issue that 99% of the white wine you drink usually is filtered, strongly sulfite added, and most of the time they also put some selected yeast to give some artificial aromas. They went so far that if you want to study now on WSET or even a Quarter Master Sommelier, you will probably read in your manual the Fiano d'Avellino, which is a grape variety from Avellino. Fiano is a grape from Campania. They will say they will taste of melon and peach. Not because the grape variety tastes of that, because most of the producers, they put a selected yeast with the taste of melon and peach in it. So the artificial story has been substituting the real story. So we're helping the winemakers, and now we're having like more than 7, 8 cooperation with winemakers to produce a wine that is actually helping the winemaker to risk a bit, going back a bit to the soil, to the tradition, of course, using the modern technique and analysis in it. And now, for example, in Suvma doesn't have any sulfite that is naturally filtered by decantation, and it stays in a beautiful. The amphora we tried in 2021 was astonishing. So that wine technically doesn't exist, and is a result. The last time we did with Mark Shalaby, which is a wine club member that loves us, and we love him, we went to a winery, and we tasted more than 35 different barrels, and we selected 4 of these bottles, and now we have these 2,000 bottles that are produced just for us on our private label. So the idea that if you're part of a winemaker, of a wine club, you are witnessing how wine is born and how you can change it based on our request and even customers' request. You have a free visit on the winery when you come here, free wine tasting if you come to do tasting all over the world, and of course, and it's about getting in touch with the entire process of the wine production and the experience of it. I don't think it exists something like that. I want to brag because I'm confident that we have the best wine club in the world, and every year we add something. Now we're going to have a newspaper. That's Lindsay's idea. We're going to probably add a wine school online, which would be partnered with some TV. Well, we shouldn't say that yet, but yeah, you're right.
All right, Alessandro, Lindsay, we actually have a caller on the line. And hello, caller, are you there?
Hi, yes.
Please, what's your question?
This is, can you hear me?
Yep, please go ahead.
Hi, this is Kathy from Murraysville. I'm calling to say that I am a member of the Rimessa Roscioli Wine Club, and it is fantastic. And I've been to Rome and done the wine tasting dinner, and had a wonderful time. And I just wanted to say hi to Lindsay. And
Kathy, how are you?
Good, and actually, we'll be back in May, at the end of May, and we're going to be doing wine tasting dinner again because we had a great time. And also, their customer service is fantastic. We had a little glitch with shipment from because of COVID supply chain stuff problems, and everything got resolved. And I just want to give kudos to Lindsay and Alessandro. You are fantastic. Thank you very much.
Grazie mille. Thank you, Kathy.
Grazie. Boy.
Totally random.
For the record, we did not set that up. So thank you, Kathy. I actually appreciate it.
I'm crying right now.
Okay, so let's pretend Kathy is coming and she's eyeing a very expensive bottle of wine and she wants just one glass. Can you make that possible? Do you have any tools or device that will allow that to be possible?
In our restaurant,
like the Coravin?
Yeah.
We have 75 bottles by the glass, from 5 to 100 euro, 150 euro per glass. But technically, if I see a big desire in the eyes of a client, I open everything they
They're all
want.
going to come with
So I
guys.
don't put any limits. So, and I'm kind of, it's, yes. I think we have possibly the biggest wine list by the glass in Italy at the moment.
Could you talk about the
best
Coravin, because not everyone might know of this
Coravin
nice
is a
device.
tricky system, but kind of helpful. Fortunately, we try not to use it too much because after a couple of weeks it changes a bit the flavor of the wine, not drastically, but a bit. But it's a needle that you put in the bottle, and you can pour a wine glass without technically opening the bottle. They say that the wine can stay there without problem for a year or two. I have seen that after 3-4 weeks it starts to change a bit. But most of the time, especially during the high season, which means any time actually now is the high season. Usually February was the low season and we were fully booked every night. But let's say that from March to October, all our Coravin will last not more than a week because we finished the bottle. We're having a lot of this Taste the Legend menu, which is the more expensive one. Possibly this is a reason of economy. Possibly, there are more richer people, and it's kind of a strange thing. We're selling more the high standard than the lower one. Our collectors have been growing a lot, especially on the collector side, the Legend side.
Okay.
So we deal a lot with this expensive bottle, but I try not. Usually when I do something, when I see a student, he want to taste a sip of Sassicaia, which is an expensive bottle. Mm-hmm. I usually give it for free. It's not a big problem. I know. I mean,
you indeed go for the experience, the ultimate experience to share that. So talking about historical figures, obviously Dante, and this is not a Dante question, don't worry, in the 24th canto of the Purgatory, he clearly talks about wine and vernaccia, and he sends Pope Martino IV to the Purgatory to pay for his gluttony, especially the anguille di Bolsena affogate nella vernaccia. So my question is, and you can be you can totally make up the answer. We're getting closer to the Ides of March. What wine would you think Julius Caesar would have liked and why? You can totally make it up.
It's a subject that always interested me, but before Middle Age, it's really complicated. There is Tim Unwin, of course, Hugh Johnson has been writing a lot of stuff. Wine Archaeology is another beautiful book. I don't remember the author right now. There is not a lot of literature and not a lot we really know. What I actually realized, especially talking with Ferdinando de Simone, which is an archaeologist, is a wine expert, that there's a kind of a misunderstanding of what wine was in the ancient age, especially the Greek and the Roman times, because it is like this. They say they used to put honey and water for sure in the wine, and they used to put garum, that was rotten fish, was the really sweet stuff. But that was probably the majority of the masses that was drinking that wine. It was like, think about that, in 2,000 years, they're digging, and they discover a bottle of Yellowtail, and they say, oh, that's what they were drinking at that time. Yeah, maybe the majority of them, because they're not going to find any bottle of Romane Conti and Sassicaia, of course, because there were few of them. So according to a sign that you can find in Pompeii, there was a Falernum that was considered the wine of the emperors. There was a Falernum that was aged for 107 years in jars, in amphora. Can you imagine that? Keeping a wine in an amphora for 107 years. It means that the producer would never see that wine, because they had to wait 3 generations. Some people from north of Italy, they were making jokes. It was about, that was the time from Naples, they like to cheat. But, for sure there was this Falernum that was a noble wine.
Falernum was like the Aliani.
Nobody knows. Mastro Berardino actually is producing a wine that is actually not really good, even though the other ones are really good. It's called Villa dei Misteri, because they tried to reproduce the ancient wine based on notes, but it's difficult. But, for sure, I guess that there were high-quality wine that costed more than others. And that's what I guess that they were at. Middle Age is a completely different story, and Renaissance is another different story.
So talking about Florence, have you taken, obviously when you go there, you probably go on to the countrysides, but have you spotted any of those Buchette del Vino? I think there are still 179 of them, obviously not in function, but people didn't, they end up turning them into citofoni, buche per le lettere, but they're interesting if you find those that might still have the name of the cantina on top of it. So have you seen any of them, or maybe just know of them?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I mean, I have never been a big passionate about Tuscany in terms of wine. I love Tuscany, but I'm in more Piedmont and other regions. But I discovered about this Buchette del Vino only during COVID because I didn't know about it. It was discovered as a cost because that was the time, the plug, and also now for that,
Let's translate maybe wine
yeah.
windows, even those.
Wine windows. Wine windows. It was about passing by the wine through a little hole. But I discovered it only 2 years ago. I didn't know about that story, so it was new to me. And I think everyone started to speak it up just during COVID. It was not something common. I don't know if you knew it even before, or you knew it like me during COVID about the story of Buchetto di Vino. Besides that, Tuscany is a strange region in terms of wine. There's a lot of mystification. There is a lot of fake stuff. There's a lot of, discovering artisan in Tuscany is more difficult than Sardinia and other places. It's our job. We don't, we're always struggling when we have to choose wine from Tuscany for the wine club, because there's a lot of, maybe because it's always been a strongly touristic region, and maybe because Chianti was possibly the first famous wine that arrived in U.S. and other places. So the concept of big production is mainly due to a kind of a late feudalism and Renaissance. There are these 3-4 big families that somehow own the market. Finding a good wine bar in Florence, it's not easy. Pitigola, Cibreo. But most of the time, you find Antinori, Frescobaldi, Antinori, Banfi. They're always the same 4 or 5 because Tuscany, is still affected by this big concept of the big and noble family that are owning. But in Piedmont, it's not like this because it's mainly owned by small producers, especially after,
Well, it is time for us to say our goodbyes, and I personally look forward to continuing this conversation over a nice glass of wine at Rimessa Roscioli this summer when I come back home. I'm from Rome as well. I don't know if I had shared with you before, but I would like to remind all our listeners the address, the web address of the wine club, which is www.roscioliwineclub.com. And again, also subscribe to their YouTube channel. These videos are so interesting, whether you are into wines or not, because we talked about vino is indeed a living product, and the labor and everything that goes into the final product that we get to enjoy is pretty much amazing. So, grazie ragazzi, andate a dormire. It's midnight,
Thank you very much. Hello, also to Cassie that called us, that warmed my heart. And thank you very much, Viviana. Your words about my videos really, really, really moved me. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Ci vediamo a Roma.
Ciao.
Okay, folks. Well, our hour is almost up.
Il Big Ben ha detto stop.
Okay, well, as usual, it's time for us to say arrivederci and alla prossima. And again, we want to thank you for listening. So again, as a reminder, if you want to come on the show, if you have a success story, you want to talk about your family, your journey from Italy to the United States, again, Italian culture, that's what this show is about. Maybe, on the other hand, you might be interested in sponsoring an episode. Again, if you kind of believe what we're doing here and you say, I want to keep this thing going, please send us an email at theitalianradiohour@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Again, we would love your support. Viviana, before we leave, who is going to be our guest next week?
Well, next week, we will have Roberto from the Italian consulate. So if you have any questions about how to obtain dual citizenship, please send us your questions beforehand at theitalianradiohour@gmail.com. And then Nikki Taylor, because once you get your citizenship, or even without citizenship, you might be considering buying property in Italy, and that's what she does. So again, as a reminder for any of you or any of your friends that would like to catch our episodes online, they can go and visit istitutomonditaliano.org and click on the Italian Radio Hour. If you are a YouTuber, we now have a YouTube channel. And vorrei ringraziare I nostri ospiti, Lindsay Gabbard and Alessandro Pepe from Rimessa Roscioli. Our sponsor, Istituto Monditaliano, Paolucci Plumbing, and Alla Boara for the music. And finally, before we leave, here is our next trivia for the week. What does it mean if someone tells you, let's rewind. What does it mean non avere peli sulla lingua? Again, what does it mean non avere peli sulla lingua? be the first one to answer correctly by sending your answer to the Italian, an email to theitalianradiohour@gmail.com. And
again, thank you for your answers from last week's trivia. As always, we enjoy reading your emails. If you are not in the Pittsburgh area or you might be traveling, remember you can catch us streaming live at khbradio.com every Thursday at 5 p.m. And be sure to like us on Instagram and Facebook at the Italian Radio Hour. Until next time, alla prossima.
ciao, ciao.
The Italian Radio Hour has been sponsored by Istituto Mondo Italiano.